Technology has changed so much in finance and accounting, but with all the disruption, one thing stays the same. Companies want to invoice efficiently and get paid faster. Today, Johnnie Walker and I talked to Ali Hussain of Tabs. They're using AI to boost their clients' bottom lines. Welcome back to another edition of The Angel Nest, where real angel investors and entrepreneurs partner to build great companies. I'm David Hemingway, and this is another of our podcast series with Johnnie Walker of Rooled, Outsourced CFO and Accounting Services. We're talking about how founders are getting funded in this new environment and the ideas that are powering innovation. Rooled are the startup finance experts. Great to see you again, Johnnie.
Great to be here again. Thank you very much, David.
Ali Hussain's company, Tabs, was incubated in stealth mode with primary venture partners, and has just recently come out to declare how they will disrupt the future, or maybe now even the present state of accounts receivable and revenue recognition. Tabs is an accounting partnership with Johnnie Walker and Rooled. Welcome, Ali, and thanks for joining us today on The Angel Nest.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, David. I appreciate you having me, and Johnnie, as always, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So tell us, what inspired you to jump into this very crowded field, right? There are a lot of accounting platforms and software that's available.
Yeah, David, there's definitely a lot of noise around invoicing. I think just taking a step back, I've been for lack of a better term, I've been a student of the general ledger, the ERP systems the last decade as an operator, and kind of just grew up using QuickBooks, NetSuite, and saw a lot of value in those platforms or in those ERP systems, but saw the trend of major workflows fully graduating off the platform and looking to other parts of the ERP. When you think about payroll and accounts payable and spend management, saw a ton of advancement there where I felt there were category-defining companies when you take a Rippling, a Gusto, a Ramp, and even a Navan. And I was like, this is amazing. These are platforms that are allowing me as an operator to fully do the workflow in that platform and reconcile it back to the ERP. And it was the experience on the other side of the ERP, which was the actual money in, the order to cash side or the accounts receivable side, where I felt that no one had actually finished the job and really thought about the problem from a first principle standpoint. And when I think about that problem to solve, it's all about saving true time and collecting faster, and felt there was no solution that could do that. And that was the impetus for wanting to start Tabs.
So, Johnnie, you and Ali are in an accounting partnership to help clients get paid faster, right? That's the ultimate creation of value in business. So how are you guys doing that? How's that working?
Yeah, well, I think, obviously as an accounting, essentially service firm, we're beholden to actually find the platforms of quality in industry so that we're delivering the best service and cost efficiency and performance for our clients. So one of the things that we look to do is partner up with the companies that are really leading the way in terms of these platforms and giving the clients the best results. And so obviously with Tabs and getting to know Ali and his team, it's been a phenomenal opportunity. I think just as Ali described there, it was a very thoughtful approach just in getting to know them. You can see it's so clear. The thoughtful approach they've taken to identify a niche or a segment with which to target, and I think as Ali is going to go on to describe exactly how they're targeting it, is a very it's innovative, and I think it's very high value. And so we're thrilled to have built this relationship, and we want to be able to bring that platform to a bunch of our clients and actually have that sort of requisite value received by them.
Yeah, Ali, so that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about. So many of the platforms you see are meant for small or medium-sized businesses, but you've really done the opposite, right? You're targeting larger companies.
It's actually a good amount of the same gambit. I think for us, the problem is the same whether you're a business doing $1 million in revenue or $1 billion. It just amplifies at scale. Many of our early companies have been in the QuickBooks NetSuite ecosystem, so find a good mix. And certainly as we've built out the product and seen a lot of value there with a lot of partners, including Rooled portfolio companies, we've then seen the larger companies actually come in earlier and say, hey, we have this problem. We can't hire accountants fast enough to solve this problem. I think we've also seen a lot of very experienced finance leaders trying to rethink technology a lot faster, I think, in the last 24 months. And that's been a good tailwind for us to go up market as well.
If you would, talk a little bit about being incubated by Primary Ventures.
Yeah. No, I've known Primary. So I think a couple things. One is Primaries have just been a great lifelong partner to me. They were investors in the last company I was at. I am a believer that, especially early, there are a few great cities to build technology companies. And for me, New York is right at the top of that list. And I think there is not a better partner in New York than Primary. And just starting this company, being able to go back to them and having their trust to do it again has been excellent. And it's funny. I mean, everything from the early teams, customers, even office space has all come through that, and it's been a great way to kind of accelerate tabs in our growth here.
Now, Johnnie and I talk a lot about founders having a more difficult time getting funded these days.
Yeah.
Right? And market-wide, there's no question that that's true. But you seem to have done very well just recently.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a challenging macro. I think, one, just having long-term relationships has been helpful. I think, two, is one of the things that I think really helped us is we picked a big problem, but we did two things very early. One is we really designed and developed with some great companies, and so it accelerated our ability to both have some early commercial traction, but also really focus on where the pain was most acute. And I think the second is we've been really fast at building product, and I think that combination allowed for some really early positive traction that made the funding environment a little bit easier for us.
What advice would you have for founders who are trying to get traction now in these more difficult times?
Yeah, I'd say a couple things. One is we are all ambitious and we have a really big vision, and I think that's excellent. I think it is pick a couple things that are very specific and applicable to a variety of partners and stay just hyper-focused on that. And if you can just keep grinding it out to get to those early inklings of a product and always balance that with a lot of demand, that's the perfect formula. And I think for me, it's been really important to stay hyper-focused when you think about supply, which is our product, but then continuously take shots to build demand and let then the demand drive the product growth. And I think if you can balance that in tandem very early, you're in a good spot. I think one of the challenges, and I myself have sometimes succumbed to that, is you get so excited about building technology, you lose sight of the customer. And I think being able to really do that in tandem has been one of the things that I would advise anyone to do, particularly on the software side.
And just leveraging a bit from what you're saying there, Ali, I think because obviously we've done a lot of work in looking at various solutions across a whole plethora of different processes. And just to highlight two things you mentioned there, one is that it can be a little bit opaque to see where the real value is of some of these tools. Mm-hmm. So they claim sort of cost savings perhaps overall, et cetera. But to really hone in on what's happening and where that's going to offer a benefit can be quite difficult. So I think on one side, it's difficult not to compliment Ali pretty much in his team all the time. But I think with that value add you've got on the receivables, and that's a very clear cost-saving opportunity for clients. It's very persuasive, I think, from day one. And the other thing is that there's a lot of, frankly, quite half-baked solutions out there. Mm-hmm. And so one of the feedback from our team in getting to know tabs in the platform was that the product is it's advanced. It's at a point where it essentially is very usable. And that's a nuance, I think, that, when you're selling to the accounting industry, and that's finance teams inside these big companies or selling to accounting companies, you've got what essentially are quite conservative people, and they need to be relatively risk averse, so that they know that they're doing their job properly, that things are getting accounted and reconciled correctly. Like it can be quite difficult to sell technology into that sort of into that ecosystem. So I think having a platform that really came to market and is very usable, is powerful, is reliable, that has definitely, I think, has given you a lot of momentum.
Certainly. It's first, I appreciate that. It's probably the number one thing that keeps me up at night is like we are living in uncertain technology times where everyone wants to throw out the term AI and try to use that as a way to build sales and momentum. And I think finance is a great function where that just alone does not work. Yeah. And for us, the value's always been how do we meet with a ton of CFOs, controllers, fractional accountants, and other types of technical accountants, and really just sit down with them and understand their problems. And part of the solution may be some AI application, but in many times it's just robust, mature software that is listening to the problems and getting built very fast alongside that. And I think particularly selling into finance, just waving the AI flag is not sufficient. It is trying to really build trust and just usage based on walking the walk. And I think operational software with speed is a huge enabler of that.
Yeah, totally. And in various other conversations or in the speaking that you've done, you talk about the unstructured nature of data and accounting, and there's obviously a lot of structured tabular stuff, but there's a lot of data out there which is, well, as you say, unstructured. Can you talk about how you see the opportunities in that currently and where that might go long term?
Absolutely. Just coming back to our overall value proposition, how do you save time and collect faster? And sitting down with hundreds of finance leaders, we ultimately realized the number one pain point for finance is actually all of this unstructured data. Customer contracts, purchase orders, MSAs, these things get lost in emails, somewhere in Salesforce. And one of the really great applications of modern AI is helping to take all of this data with tremendous speed, being able to actually then structure and organize it for finance teams. And I think when I look back at what makes tabs, I think the most promising solution to finally solve this AR problem, which I don't think has a category winner today, it is that unstructured to structured data wedge that we have built that I don't think anyone else has really thought about as a part of the AR or RevRec definition. And where that ultimately goes is it provides a ton of operational value once you get it in place. And so we've really focused on using that to then speed up the time to invoice, which in all of our research proved to actually be the number one reason people aren't paid on time. It's not the number of email reminders or digital payments. It is the lack of speed most companies have to actually take unstructured data, invoice on time, and get that invoice out accurately that I think provides the biggest value in trying to solve this problem.
Totally. And I think one of the evolutions we've seen in the finance space, going back some number of years, frankly, is from the CFO being very finance and only finance focused. Now you've got that role is expanded widely across the organization. I think, as the CFO work that we're involved in, with the clients that we have, a lot of it steps into the kind of RevOps, the metrics reporting, and a lot of that other operational efficiency, which obviously has to link back to finance. So you have to have that solid ledger record and data as to what's actually gone on in the finance piece. But you're interacting with all these other data sets. And I think this is where, consolidating a lot of that data that's on the operational side together with the finance side, you've got this reconciliation. You're able to say, okay, what I'm reporting out here in left field, which might be more on sort of revenue recognition metrics, et cetera, actually translates back to solid finance information. And I think that's going to be, because everything a lot of times right now happens in quite disparate systems. And I think you don't have this kind of synchronization capability. But if you've got a platform that really helps basically ensure that validity, then I think you're in a world where you're going to make the CFO's job an awful lot easier.
You're spot on. The last thing I'll say on that is ultimately where we are headed is to create that data system of record for finance on the customer side. When you think about the pain of most finance teams today, when it comes to having to quickly create a board presentation or be ready for an audit or to be able to send out a bunch of invoices at the beginning of the month, they're playing CSA of finance. They're trying to get data from Salesforce, customer success via Slack, a bunch of email threads. And if we can be that system of record where everything sits and then structures and organizes it, you can optimize a ton of workflows. We've started with accounts receivable. We have RevRec coming later this month. But then it's that insights from that which can really make finance a huge strategic player, not only within the finance function for a ton of kind of executive level decisions over the long term.
Yeah, and I think when you look at companies, I've written about this, that when you're doing the reporting at the executive level, there's obviously a lot of incentives are there on the companies to report, frankly, as positive situations as possible, because those are the means by which they're measured for future fundraising, how progress is going, et cetera. And it can, as a CFO, you're right in the middle of this, trying to as I've been saying, synchronize that reporting there to what's actually going on in the finance piece. So I think it is such a how am I going to say it? It's such a fundamentally important component, I think, of future finance environments. That this consolidation on one platform, I think, is so going to be so crucial.
Absolutely.
So I think, Ali Hussain, I think your advice to founders who want to start companies and get funded is start with the client problem that needs to be solved.
Absolutely.
And getting paid faster is something that resonates with everybody.
100%, especially in a time where on an average invoice of 30 days, it takes an additional 20 to 40 days to resolve. And in a world where the money markets are saying that's worth 5% in a checking account, like you should go grab that dollar ASAP.
Right, because it's the new lost in the mail.
100%.
Ali Hussain from Tabs, thanks for joining us today. Johnnie Walker, thanks as always.
Thank you very much,
Thanks
David.
for having us.
Thank you, Ali.
All right, you can find contact information for our guest today at our website, theangelnest.com, where you can also reach me if you know of an exciting business opportunity or a faster way to get paid or an innovation topic that we should talk about. We produce The Angel Nest with help from Rob Higley and Charles de Montebello at the controls of CDM Studios at the historic Art Deco Film Center building just west of Times Square in New York. Thanks for listening. Here's hoping my fellow angels and the founders they support find their next great venture. So long until next time.